Listen, my child, to this story of dreams, and know that the beginning is more difficult than it seems.
I've been a huge fan of Nancy Drew for as long as I can remember. My grandpa and I started playing the PC games together when I was about 5 years old, starting with the final scene. Every weekend, even if we didn't have a new game to play, we'd pop one in and solve the mystery. We played several of them so many times that we had them completely memorized. This was originally meant to be a Nancy Touches Grass video. I was all set to roast myself in the intro over how much random trivia I could blurt out that I'd learned from these games. But when the time came to record footage, I came to a startling realization. Many of these games do not allow you to touch grass. Now, don't get me wrong, there are certainly games where there's an abundance of grass to be touched, but if my count was correct, it's less than half of them. The other half fall into a few categories. Some games make sense why you can't touch grass. You're pretty much locked in an indoor location the whole time, so obviously there isn't much grass to be found. A handful of games take place in a snowy environment, making it impossible to tell if there's grass concealed beneath. Still others do have grass. It's either just too far away for Nancy to reach, or it's right next to us, but model citizen Nance refuses to walk on it. Petty theft, breaking and entering, vehicular manslaughter, all perfectly acceptable to our sassy detective, but straying from the marked path, that's just going too far. Is the lack of available grass in many of these games a metaphor? Nancy is characterized, especially towards the latter half of the series, as being relentless in her pursuit of mysteries to solve. Some might say she has no life outside of sleuthing. Perhaps we, as players, are unable to touch grass because Nancy herself cannot, or should I say, will not, touch grass. If there were just a handful of games sans grass, I think I still could have made this concept work, but with so many of them lacking proper greenery, I felt like the video would have gotten boring, being told time and again that we weren't able to complete the challenge. Even so, I don't want to give up on my mission to make a Nance video, especially after reinstalling all the games. I need a second chance at diving into these mysteries. Wait a second, that's it! I'll see how fast we can get a second chance in every Nancy Drew game. First, let's set up some ground rules. We'll only be playing the mainline HerInteractive games, no Dossier series, no DS games, and no alternative platform releases of the series. All games will be played on Senior Detective mode. The timer starts once we choose our difficulty. It ends when we're able to take our second chance. There are a few variations of the second chance screens throughout the series. Some games take you back to the main menu, some give you a yes or no option, and a couple don't offer a choice at all, simply taking you back to the place where you goofed up. It often takes several seconds between the game over and actually reaching our second chance options, but I won't make you sit through all that. I'll just show you what the final time was. We won't be skipping cutscenes or dialogue, and we won't be using any glitches. You might be thinking, you're not going to get very good times on your speedruns if you won't use skips. This is true, but while I'm technically speedrunning these second chances, I'm not trying for world record times or anything. I'm mostly just doing this for fun, so think of it as role-playing an incompetent Nancy trying to solve the case but failing as quickly as she can. Before we begin, some quick shoutouts to some channels who inspired this video. First are Jorts and Game Essays, whose videos made me want to do my own playthroughs of touching various things. And of course, Arglefump, our favorite Nance tuber, who I've been watching probably since around 2009. I know he's recently done his own death percent runs, but I hope I'm offering a different enough experience that you can excuse the similarities in concept. With all that said, let's get started. Nancy has been summoned to Florida to solve the murder of Paseo Del Mar teenager Jake Rogers. Before we head to the school to investigate, we should stop by the local diner. I'm not feeling super social today though, so we'll just head to the kitchen instead of talking with Daryl. These pliers look useful. We'll save those for later and head to the school.
Check!
Before we move on, can I just take a moment to appreciate how hard the music in Secrets Can Kill goes? This being the first game in the franchise, they did not have to give us such an intense musical experience. Our mystery here is the same as in the original Secrets Can Kill, except this time Nancy is assigned a fancy police detective informant. Unfortunately for us, we won't be meeting Detective Beach today. We don't even have to leave Aunt Eloise's house. Instead, we have a safe to break into.
Check.
This time around, Rick Arlen, a famous soap opera actor, has been receiving threatening messages. After a couple conversations with Maddie, she invites us to witness this stunning performance.
No, Rory, don't go! I love you!
I don't want to see you, Serena.
Woo, somebody call emergency services because that scene was on fire.
Where's the fire? You must be the one behind all these shenanigans.
Excuse me, what do you mean we're responsible for all the shenanigans? We just got here today.
That's done.
Rose and Abby are turning this old Victorian mansion into a bed and breakfast, but they need Nancy's help to find the source of certain accidents. Based on the title of the game, it's obviously ghosts. Don't worry though, Monster House has shown me just how to handle ghost houses.
Whoops! You did what?
Check.
This is my all-time favorite Nancy Drew game, and for once, Nancy's not necessarily here to solve a mystery. She just happens to have gotten snowed in at a ski lodge. But of course, you can't take the snooping out of the Nance. We'll just skip ahead to nighttime where nobody's awake and swipe this key from Dexter's desk. Now we're free to snoop through this torn-apart library to our heart's content.
Well, well, well. Look who returned to the scene of the crime. You're out of here.
Did that.
Nancy's reporter friend Maya has an interview with actor Brady Armstrong inside a historic theater which is about to be torn down.
Help! Nancy!
I'm sure she's fine. We'll just go explore the rest of the theater while we wait for Maya to finish up her interview. Hopefully we can rein Nance in a little bit though. We wouldn't want her niffler instincts kicking in.
All the world's doomed to be mine.
Check.
Nancy's been hired as an intern at Beach Hill Museum. Joanna Riggs, the curator, gives Nancy a little introduction to their Mayan artifacts and then explains some of the duties Nancy will be expected to perform. Doing chores sounds boring, though. Instead, we're gonna grab this key card and head to the temple to have some fun. We play some bowl, match some words, and do a little trivia before gaining access to the second level. Here we have a basketball game, a maze with some lovely imagery, and another round of trivia. Once on the third level, we gain access to even more activities. What's this, though? A door that's unlocked before we complete the games? Don't mind if I do.
That's done.
After learning about the creepy ghost dogs that are plaguing our friend Sally McDonald's house, we set right out to investigate the property.
Rotten floorboards, watch your...
Check.
Some suspicious things have been happening at Captain's Cove Amusement Park, and it's Nancy's job to find out who's been causing them. Before we leave our hotel, though, we should make sure our clothes are properly ironed. Wouldn't want to look like a ruffian on our first day on the job.
Cleanliness is next to managerliness.
With that taken care of, it's time to head off to the park.
Please turn immediately.
Hello?
This is Paula Santos. I'm standing outside what's left of the Captain's Quarters Hotel.
Did that.
George's friend Katie Firestone has invited Nancy to Snake Horse Harbor to hang out with her on her whale tour boat. Unfortunately, when Nancy arrives, she finds out the boat has been sabotaged. Not to worry, Katie, Nance is on the case. Helmet? Who needs that? We're on a time crunch.
That's done.
Nancy, Bess, and George head off to Shadow Ranch, where Bess and George's aunt and uncle live. Unfortunately, Bess and George are held up at the airport, and Aunt Bet and Uncle Ed are at the hospital. They tell us to relax until they get home, but do ask us to run one errand for them, which requires
Riding on a horse. Ha.
Unfortunately, Tex here won't let us ride unless we finish some chores for Shorty first. Shorty wants us to pick ripe vegetables. There is a veggie second chance, but it takes several times of getting it wrong for Shorty to kick you out, so for our purposes it's much faster to just do it right. After turning in our veggies, Shorty tells us to get eggs. The egg basket breaks, but once we fix it, a new scary chicken appears. Give us your eggs, chicken.
Ow! Ow! Ow!
Check.
Nancy's neighbor sends her off to Blackmore Manor in England, where her daughter has just married into the Penvillin family and is having some problems adjusting. After seeing something creepy outside, Nance is ushered in by Mrs. Drake, a member of the Penvillin family. We talk with Mrs. Drake for a bit, though she doesn't seem thrilled with our presence. After we get settled in our room, we rush downstairs to the conservatory to get some more information out of Mrs. Drake. Before we talk to her, though, we have got to check out this wicked man-eating plant.
That's done.
We head back in time to the 1930s, where Emily Crandall, a friend of Nancy's, is having a rough go of it. Her mother's recently died, leaving her in charge of running the Lilac Inn. Before we get too tied into this family drama, though, I think we should go explore the town a bit. You know, on second thought, maybe we should go see Emily first, but she's not going anywhere. But she really did sound urgent in her letters. I'm sure she'll be fine for another half hour or so. Well, drats. We'll just deal with this real quick and head into town to fix our spare.
Check.
Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys, and a handful of other mystery solvers have been asked onto this train to figure out the decades-old mystery of the disappearance of Jake Hurley, the train's original owner. After introductions are made, though, there's another disappearance to solve. Laurie Gerard, the hostess of this event, vanished. We talk a bit with Western romance author Charlena Purcell, and then are called over by the Hardys to see what they discovered. We end our talk by agreeing with Joe, the superior Hardy Boy,
Cheeseburger.
and head off to explore the train. Actually, on second thought, this train is giving me motion sickness. I need to be let off now.
Did that.
Nancy travels by map to Paris, France, where she's off to work as an intern for a fashion designer. When she arrives, though, she learns that the designer, Minette, is having a bit of a freak out. Heather explains some things to us and then sets us on our way. We're expected to go see Minette, but she's kinda scary. Instead, we'll check out our duties on the computer and head out to perform some of them, but not before receiving a threatening note meant for Minette. Ignoring that lead for now, we head over to see Dieter von Schwesterkrank, who has prints for us to pick up. Unfortunately, the prints aren't ready yet. Not to worry though, Nancy can make them herself. We'll just turn off the lights and go for it, I guess.
That can't be good. Check.
Nancy's been granted another internship, this time with an entomologist in Hawaii. Surely nothing strange will happen here, right? When Nancy arrives, she needs to get the keys to her car from Big Island Mike. He won't give them to her until she makes a shell necklace. Off to the beach we go for some shells, and we get a call from Ned. We have to hang up on him though, because clearly the Hardy Boys are much more important than our boyfriend. Jeez, what happened to you boys between games? I guess I can see why Nancy found this so urgent. The Hardys are here to get info on Big Island Mike's daughter, Pua, to make sure she'd be a good fit for a sponsorship. We agree to share information with the boys, pick up our shells, and make our necklace. As we drive to Dr. Kim's camp, the bridge is destroyed during a storm, separating the two environments for most of the game. Nancy finds Dr. Kim's camp destroyed. We listen to her audio diary for her trunk password, learn about the Healy Healy research facility and get a keycard for it, and also grab a hook. We notice that we need new cells for the solar panel to run the radio, and then pull Nancy's car out of the ditch. We head off to the Healy Healy and try to use the card, only to get in trouble with Dr. Craven. He scolds us, but after we explain our circumstances, we come to an understanding. He agrees to give us some cells for our solar panel if we pick him some seeds. With this done, we fix the panel and call Dr. Kim, who tells us where she is. Only, we don't hear her well. We call Joe Hardy, and he agrees to help us out. As Joe, we find out from Big Island Mike that he'll leave his desk if we catch him some fish. We fish for a while until we have enough. And give them to Mr. Mapu. After he drives off, we grab his key and open the closet, where we find a map and Dr. Kim's proper location. Unfortunately for poor Joe, his time in this game has come to an end.
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Back as Nancy, we head over to Dr. Kim, where she asks us to go back and get her notebook. Once we've returned with that, she instructs us to do the frass puzzle. We ignore all the frass samples on the way back to our car and head back to camp quickly to notice that the microscope lens is broken. Not to worry, Dr. Craven has the one that we can use so long as we do him a favor. We have to fertilize his plants. Nancy, being an expert botanist, obviously does this perfectly.
No, no, no! I told you to fertilize them, not kill them!
That's done.
We head off to Canada to solve the mystery of strange accidents happening at Icicle Creek Lodge. A wolf crosses our path on the drive over, and something explodes in the distance. After a phone call with the lodge's owner, Chantal, it's decided that Nancy will be both the maid and the chef, all while she's supposed to be solving mysteries. Nancy doesn't have to make breakfast this morning to give her time to settle in, so we'll just skip ahead to lunchtime. We want to put our best foot forward in our new job after all. We'll just flop some hamburgers down on the grill and wait for them to be ready. Just a little longer, I think.
Oh, now look what you've done.
Did that.
Bruno Bolet, the owner of a creepy mansion in New Orleans, has passed away, and Nancy's off to offer her support to his grandson Henry, who is a college friend of Ned's. When she gets there, though, she's accosted by a strange skeleton man.
With the wave of my hand in a well-placed mode, I have swept the very bravest off their feet.
She wakes up to see Renee, the mansion's caretaker. We have a brief talk with her, Henry piping up now and then we're free to explore. Looks like there's a key down this well. Sure looks important to me, and Nancy is a niffler after all.
If that spider is poisonous, I could be in trouble. Because I'm starting to feel kind of... Check.
Oh hey, look! The game's starting me out with a death this time, how kind of it. If only that were actually true. This is unfortunately just a flash forward, and we wake up in Nancy's bedroom at the Karascotra. Before we can escape to the outside world, we have to talk for a bit with Colin, who shows us some fascinating tessera. He does not take kindly to us wanting to go.
I thought I had at long last found a kindred spirit, someone who shared my passion for beauty, for art, but you apparently are like everyone else, interested only in what something is worth instead of what it offers the soul.
We finally manage to escape. We run into our roommate Helena outside and chat with her for a bit. Then we grab our bank card from our parcel and head over to Piazza San Marco to pick up some bird feed and learn about our mission. We head back over to the Ka and talk with the owner Margarita, then it's off to spy on Antonio Fongo.
Nancy, what are you doing?
Spying on someone?
Davvero?
We then head to Nancy's room and call our contact to report our findings. We have to go grab a tracking device at Campo Santa Maria Formosa, then it's off to Campo dei Frari to break into Fongo's apartment. Unfortunately, you do have to notice that you need a lockpick before you can actually grab one, so we make another trip back to the Ka and grab one of Nancy's bobby pins. We also have to talk for a bit with Prudence Rutherford. Nancy won't leave the room until you answer the phone. But finally, we can get back on track. We crack the lock, give the pigeon some food, and add the tracker. We then get an alert that Fongo's on his way back to the office. Quick, we have to hide! There's just no good place to hide in here.
Oh, bother. Hey, che diavolo fai qui?
Did that.
We're off to be the maid of honor in the wedding of some vague friend of Nancy's. But before we can make it to the castle, we're driven off the road by what seemed to be a banshee. We make our way over to the castle, where we're sent away by an unflattering close-up of a man. Luckily, we have another option to get into the house. Kyler lets us inside, and she tells us about Matt, her prankster fiancé, who's disappeared just days before the wedding. and also her caretaker Denal, who thinks he's in a Seven Waters novel. Once we finish our talk, it's time to explore the castle. This precarious stairway seems like the perfect place to hide if you're trolling your fiancé.
I don't think I can jump that far.
Sure you can, Nancy. Have more faith.
Huh? Ah! Check.
The crew have won a free vacation to a practically deserted tropical island, but when Nancy arrives, it's to a distraught George who tries to flag down the plane. Turns out,
Bess has been kidnapped!
Not to worry though, because Nancy is on the case. We just have to fix up the car outside and head out into the island proper. First, we notice
it's locked.
We grab the key from George and then get the water battery doohickey. We don't need to actually pay attention to the water levels though. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Check.
After a wonderful cinematic cutscene of a girl getting locked in a closet after receiving a creepy letter,
And I know everything. Hey.
Nancy begins talking with her new roommate. We establish Nancy's cover story as Becca Sawyer, a transfer student, and the mystery of the Black Cat sending threats to honor students and causing accidents. We then head outside and run into Izzy, who sets us up on the local gossip network and is quick to accuse Becca of getting kicked out of her old school. Oh, it is on. You want to see getting kicked out of school? I'll show you getting kicked out of school.
That's 5 demerits.
Did that.
Nancy's hired this time around to check out a group of storm chasers, and when she arrives, it's to a terrible tornado. Once it's finished, we hop into Nancy's car. I'm sure not sticking around for more storm nonsense. Oops, excuse me, pardon. Oh, let me just squeeze right past you there.
That's done.
Nancy is staying at a ryokan while Bess and George attend a tech convention in Tokyo. When she arrives, a portrait falls off the wall, and Obasan declares that someone wants Nancy gone. Miwako checks Nancy in anyways, and we set off. First, we chat with Bess and George for a bit, and then we head to the baths. Rentaro alerts us that the baths are for boys today, meaning we can't go in. No problem, we'll just follow Rentaro instead. We talk with him for a bit and learn that everyone thinks the ryokan is haunted. He then gives us a puzzle book, which we will promptly ignore. We head back to the front desk, where a woman is giving Miwako a thorough tongue lashing. After witnessing such an awkward event, we turn back around and head to Rentaro, who has the portrait from before sitting on his desk. We offer to help out with it, and set out to solve this puzzle, sadly, kinda slowly. Anyways, once we finally get it done, we can grab the article in the back and take it to Miwako. Tact who? Nancy's never met her.
Where did you get this? You have no right to have this.
Did that.
We start off with a glorious monster chase sequence.
When you're slapped, you'll take it and like it.
And then Nancy stands at the gates of the very same castle that the girl in the past was abducted from. We're teased by a little boy who won't allow us entrance unless we solve his monster puzzle. Once we get the right answer, Carl, the guy in charge, runs Lucas off and lets us in. Time to get started on the newest case. Ooh, wait. What's this do?
Check.
Nancy and friends are part of a Midnight Madness style challenge, and Nancy gets a secret note telling her to go to the town hall. Alone. Yeah, Nance. Nothing suspicious about that at all. Once there, she notices an icicle on the thermometer, and suddenly the place catches fire. Gosh, Nancy, I just don't think this stuff is tall enough to reach the exit. Oh, whatever shall we do?
That's done.
We learn about an ancient curse on this mysterious tomb that was unveiled 60 years ago. The curse seems to be making itself known today as well, as Nancy finds Dr. Boyle, the head of the excavation team, knocked unconscious. After getting him medical attention, she chats with him over the phone, and he gives her permission to investigate. But before we get too into our desert adventure, it's important to stay hydrated.
These pretzels are making me thirsty.
Check.
A body has been discovered!
Finally, another murder case. This time, Nancy's been sent to a tech lab to solve the murder of a scientist named Nico. Victor, the man who hired us, wants us to focus our investigation on a woman named Ryan. Before we can investigate anyone, though, we need to open Nico's desk for the case file. After that, I think Nancy deserves to head to bed for a break. First, though, we talk to Victor one more time. Then we get rudely woken to the sound of an alarm. We're greeted by Gray, who demands that we shut down the system. Why is this Nancy's job? I'm not sure. He's the one who works here. Man, this puzzle sure is a toughie.
Did that.
Because it took so long to actually fail this challenge, I entertained the idea of a different death. Here, we fix the system and then immediately go press the emergency button to distract Gray. The object here is to get caught snooping in his room, but it takes even longer to get caught than it does to fail the system shutdown puzzle. I guess it's nice that they give players so much wiggle room to figure things out, but it does put a damper on speedrunning death. This time around, Nancy is woken up in the middle of the night by a phone call from Savannah Woodham, the ghost hunter she talked with in Shadow of the Water's Edge. Savannah is sending Nancy to Thornton Hall, a terribly haunted, dark place where a bride disappeared from her bachelorette party. Nancy's dropped off to the estate and heads up to the house. She's stopped by Colton, the fiancé, who gives Nancy Jesselyn's phone. Then we're off to explore inside. We head to the very back room and all the way to this enticing door. It looks like there's some kind of warning, but...
That sign can't stop me, because I can't read!
Check.
Nancy has a flashback about her mother, and then we see that she's traveled to the place Kate Drew was standing in one of her last pictures. Nancy's luggage is stolen, but Alec here agrees to help her find it. We then head to Nancy's hotel room to grab the case file. We also grab the Easter egg from Nancy's safe, so we won't need to make any money later on. We talk with Bridget for a bit outside the room, and then head off to talk with Alec again, who agrees to find information out about Moira. We get a creepy phone call with a test for Nancy.
Hello. Would you like to play a game?
No, thanks, Mr. Creepy Man. We head back outside to give Alec a moment to get his info, and he tells us where we can find Moira. We use our Easter egg to grab a ticket book and then head to Bear's Den. Moira will not let us inside until we buy her some food, so it's back to the train station we go. Outside, we get a call from a justifiably worried Carson, and then we pick up Moira's snacks. We return to her, and then we have a nice little chat about past Kate and Nancy. Then, people show up demanding to be let inside, and Moira tells Nancy to hide. Man, I'm just so bad at this hiding thing. You really ask too much of me, Moira.
Would you look at that?
That's done.
Do you guys like The Amazing Race as much as I do? Then have I got a game for you. Nancy and George are partnered together for a reality game show that's been taken over by our recurring mystery character, Sunny June. They've got to work together to find pieces of their team's medallion. The first challenge is to put together these train tracks. We receive an activation chip to let us out of the area, and then we get a text telling us about a challenge in the puzzle house. We solve the Find the Difference puzzle for the password and then head off to Mossbourne. Here, George appears and tragically falls off the bridge.
Today, a dark mood hangs over New Zealand as the remaining contestants grapple with the loss of such a brave young woman. From this season's cast.
How do people hate this game? We catch up with an injured George who gives us the key to the producer's area, taking a page out of Nancy's book. We won't be needing this, though. Before we can get back to business, we have to talk for a bit with Kiri, who wants to team up with us since her partner also left the show. As a sign of good faith, she tells us that Sunny June isn't supposed to be running things. Really? The flighty, enigmatic weirdo isn't a real TV producer?
I am shocked! Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
After we're done with Kiri, we head back to where George fell. They've made a puzzle out of the Ricky Bridge, but we collect our flower. Unfortunately, we've completely lost this challenge, but are somehow saved from being booted off the show. We head back to Mossborn for the next challenge in the barn, and are then sent another text about something in the puzzle house. We head back to check it out, and...
Check.
Hired by a museum owner to help out during the production of the play Persephone in Winter, Nancy heads to Greece. She talks a bit with the Hardys until she hears a scream. Turns out, it was part of the rehearsal for the play.
Oh, wait, that's okay.
Nancy talks a bit with Xenia, who plays Persephone, and then we head on over to the backstage area. We try to mess with the pulley system, but are promptly shut down by Grigor,
Hold it!
who attempts to flirt, and then it's our turn for a shutdown.
Objection!
He leaves, and we mess with the pulley system anyways, causing Xenia to freak out and leave her post.
Take that!
We head on over to steal her script and get the code for the case downstairs holding the hydraulic lift remote. We head down, get spooked by Thanos, and then notice that we need to offer Charon a coin to cross the river. Time to head to the museum. We have a brief cutscene showing Niobe snooping in one of the cases, and then we talk to her for a bit. We head over to the office door, see where the key was left for us, and go pick it up. No, you cannot grab the key before you read the note. It's very rude. Once in the office, we talk with the owner Melina for a bit. We then head back to Niobe and pick up a book of mythology. We talk once more with Melina to find out how to get into the museum cases. We have to solve this puzzle to get the key to the filing cabinet. Nancy refuses to solve this puzzle until you have the book from Niobe. You don't have to read it, you just have to have it. We open the filing cabinet, grab the key to the case, and open it to get a coin. We take the coin back to Charon, and he takes us across the river, where we have to contend with Cerberus. After that's done, it's off to the workshop. I work here too now, so surely they won't mind too much if I hang around.
What are you doing?
Ew. Apparently they mind.
Did that.
We start off with a cutscene of a ship crashing into harbor, and then Nancy arrives in town. We talk a bit with Dagny, the business partner of Magnus who's disappeared, and learn that we can't access the ship right away because a woman named Elizabeth has taken down the gangway. We head to the info center and talk with Soren, who says he'll get Elizabeth sorted out. We then head off to the pub and talk with Gunnar for a bit before we earn some money by learning Icelandic. We get some sleep to set the tide to high, and then head off to the ship. We talk with Elizabeth, and then we head below deck to open up Magnus's desk and grab the lighthouse key. Then we head up to the ship's communication room, where we notice that we need a key to access the radio and that Dagny has one. We head off the ship and across the gangway to a little dinghy, which we need instructions to get it working. We head back into town, but not before we get a call from Ned, wanting to know if Nancy's on her way to their anniversary dinner. It might be quicker to make Ned mad during this conversation so he hangs up on us, but I just don't have the heart.
I just want a story with a happy ending for all.
Before Dagny will give us her key, we first have to fix her heater in a very scientific manner. With the key obtained, we head to Soren, who gives us a pamphlet about operating dinghies, which is very handy. We also have to buy a book to translate some of the words, which is why we made money earlier. You have to have both of these things before Nancy will even let you attempt the dinghy puzzle. We head back to the ship and use the radio, reaching a girl named Alex. Alex gives us some information about Magnus, and then agrees to help us distract Elizabeth so we can snoop through her things, so long as we do her a favor first. We head back to the dinghy and get everything into place, and then we're off to the lighthouse. Once inside, we have to play 2048 to get the lighthouse working again. We talk with Alex a bit more, and then get locked inside the lighthouse with the windows open. Sorry, Nancy, if only we'd brought our trusty TI-83 calculator along for the ride. Surely we'd be out of here by now.
It's too cold, and I'm so tired. That's done.
This is where I would put my Midnight in Salem footage. If I had it! Really though, I never got a chance to play this one with my grandpa. My husband is playing through the whole series with me, but we're still pretty early on. I didn't want to ruin my first experience of the game by trying to rush through the opening bits, so I hope it's acceptable that I elected not to include it in this video.
Can't check that off yet.
It was a blast playing through all these games again, even if I was only able to play most of them for a few minutes. I definitely didn't play optimally in certain situations. There were times when I clicked too slow or misclicked, times when I solved a puzzle too slowly or picked the wrong dialogue option. There's probably even times when I didn't take the fastest route through the game. These times, especially the ones that are close together, aren't definitive rankings, they're just reflective of my own experience racing towards failure. And, like I said at the start, this was mostly about me having fun and giving myself an excuse to play through some of my childhood favorites. I guess it makes sense in the end that childhood me loved Nancy Drew so much. In many cases, our favorite sassy detective has no qualms sneaking into places she's not supposed to be and taking things that weren't meant for her. Perhaps Nancy was the original inspiration for the Halfling Rogue.